We all know about the radical Islamic terror attacks in the United States, Europe, and across the world. But do we really know what's driving them? We all know about terrorism. This is the war you don't know about.
I think there is a general tendency to underestimate the threat which is offered to us in the present global conflict.
I think the public in America is denied the strategic truth. Media and elite are not helping.
The vast majority of Americans no longer are falling for the trick of the bad terrorists who are out there to get us.
The third jihad tells the story that the media refuses to tell. It's a powerful new film that exposes the roots, goals and strategies of radical Islam.
ما نعتقده أن جميع الأرض لا بد أن تكون تحت حكم الإسلام.
If one wants to find out what is motivating radical Islam, surely it's more sensible to look at what they actually say they're doing and what their intentions actually are.
نحتل العالم من أجل أن تنتصر كلمة لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله على قبة موسكو وواشنطن وباريس.
And it's not only the radicals in the Middle East that hold these views.
Allah says that Islam will rise to its proper position in the world. Islam will reign supreme whether they like it or not.
So this is not a war about land or oil or occupation.
Jihad is a foreign policy to expand the Islamic authority all over the world.
But rather the radicals see themselves as continuing the jihadi conquests of the 7th and 14th centuries. And how do they plan on spreading Islam throughout the world? Terrorism is just one of the tactics.
How you doing?
The third jihad tells the story of Dr. Zuhdi Jahsar, a U.S. Navy veteran and former physician to the U.S. Congress. Dr. Jahsar is a devout Muslim, and after 9/11, he committed to fight the spread of radical Islam.
Where are the Muslims? Where are they in speaking out and condemning terrorism? If you listen to bin Laden, he is not a nutcase as many Muslims will want you to believe. He is a fascistic theocrat, period.
Despite the personal risk, Dr. Jahsar is trying to sound the alarm before it's too late.
In today's context, there are actually two different types of jihad. There's the violent jihad, where the Islamists use violence and terror to try to overthrow their enemy. And then there's what has been termed the cultural jihad, where these Islamists use in a most duplicitous way the laws and the rights they are given in our society to try to work against society and overthrow it.
The leaders of radical Islam, or many of them, realized that they cannot win the United States at the military level. So they plot another thing or another plot to infiltrate America from within.
After 9/11, I came across an alarming document that reveals the true agenda of much of the Muslim leadership here in America. A strategy to infiltrate and dominate America.
What Dr. Jahsar found was a document uncovered by the FBI. It was a 15-page manifesto that outlines the goals and strategies of the Muslim Brotherhood in North America.
Hamas grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood. Palestinian Islamic Jihad grew out of the Muslim Brotherhood. From the Egyptian Islamic Jihad movement grew the current movement of Al-Qaeda, for instance.
On page 7, the document states that their work in America is a kind of a grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within.
Many of the radical groups listed on the document are still in existence today. And many of those groups strive to foster a mainstream moderate image and have become increasingly influential. Dr. Jaaser came to realize that some of the Muslim leaders who were touted as patriotic Americans were in fact calling for Islam to dominate America.
In fact, on our website, we talk about the Islamic State of North America by 2050.
Islam will dominate. That's what it will be.
These groups are not Al-Qaeda, they're not Hamas, they're not Hezbollah, and most of them are non-violent. But they still want to replace American law with their version of Sharia, Islamic law.
We want to see Sharia here, and it will be. The flag of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, will be, inshallah, on the White House if that's what we choose to be.
Have you ever stopped to think about what would happen if the Islamists won and their version of Sharia law was put into place? All you need to do is look at countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Sudan, and Somalia, and places like the Gaza Strip, and you'll see that those places are human rights disasters.
The third jihad outlines the numerous ways Western values collide with the extremists' version of Sharia or Islamic law. For instance, the rejection of any other religions.
Where there are Christian minorities and where there are Jewish minorities in any one of the countries where there is an Islamic majority, they are persecuted, they are overtaxed, they have to hide their religion.
My father has been shot at 3 separate times for one simple reason: carrying that cross and walking every day.
Another point of conflict between Western values and Sharia is women's rights.
If women are caught wearing the wrong clothing, they could be fined or even arrested.
من هؤلاء الذين يقررون لي ماذا يجب أن أكون عليه؟ لماذا تعاملوني كسيدة أنني ناقصة الأهلية وهنالك دائما صوت ذكوريا يقرر لي ما يجب أن أكون عليه؟
As a woman, if you, and all individuals are different, but if you are an individual woman with a strong character and you rebel against this kind of life, you run more than anyone else the risk of being beaten. Abused, your spirit being killed by your own family, by your own loved ones.
ولا بد أن نعلم أن الضرب عقوبة شرعية لا يملك إنسان أن ينكره لأن الذي شرعه هو الذي خلق هذا الإنسان.
It's not just women and children that are repressed in these countries. You would never want the government to find out you're gay.
من وجدتموه يعمل عمل قوم لوط فاقتلوا الفاعل والمفعول.
In Iran, we don't have homosexuals like in your country. We don't have that in our country.
One of the most common questions I get when I speak to audiences around the country is, what % of Muslims in America are radical? And the Pew poll in 2007 actually provided some staggering numbers about that.
In a hair-raising number, the Pew Research Center reports on a new poll that as many as 1 in 4 young American Muslims condone suicide bombings against civilians, at least sometimes.
Another cause for concern is that many prison inmates are being converted into radicalized Islam all across the country.
In fact, the former chaplain of the New York Department of Corrections has been caught on tape saying some extremely radical things.
Brothers, be prepared to fight, be prepared to die, be prepared to kill. It's a part of the deen, and this ain't your brother just saying this. This is history. This is Quran. Nobody can deny it.
Many of these radicalized prison converts live in over a dozen Islamist compounds across the country. Their leader is Pakistani cleric Sheikh Mubarak Jalani. In this videotape, he calls on his followers to fight oppression, along with lessons in combat, ambush tactics, and bomb making. And the threat isn't just from within America.
What makes this particularly important and dangerous is the possession of nuclear weapons.
مسیر بهره‌مندی کامل از همه ظرفیت هسته‌ای رو به پایان است. قدرت آمریکا رو به اضمحلال است. قدرت پوشالی و سلطه شیطانی آمریکا بر جهان رو به نابودی است.
I would regard this as a real danger at the present time, the acquisition of nuclear weapons and their control by Ahmadinejad.
The peak, the pinnacle, the crest, the highest point, the pivot, the summit of Islam is jihad.
As we speak, the Islamists are raising their next generation to hate the West and to prepare themselves for cultural and violent jihads.
Yes, we want to give children a military education. We want to use children to behead infidels and spies so they will become brave.
We have to realize that we're facing a massive clash of values.
It's an entire movement, and the idea of it is hatred for our way of life.
If I'm asked to sum up my message to America at the present time, I would sum it up in 2 words: wake up.